I hardly slept a wink. Yeah, I sure look awful when I get up. How can such a handsome guy look so ugly in the morning? Must be the diet. I look good.
Yabba Dabba Doo.
When the Flintstones was just another cartoon you watched in reruns, most people thought it was made for kids, but it wasn't. When it premiered on ABC in 1960, it was a primetime sitcom made for adults, filled with work stress, marriage jokes, and even cigarette commercials. The idea was simple. Fred and Wilma Flintstone, their best friends and neighbors Barney and Betty Rubble, and later their kids, Pebbles and Bam Bam, all living normal suburban lives in the prehistoric town of Bedrock, complete with dinosaur-powered appliances and endless rock puns. For 6 seasons and 166 episodes, The Flintstones was must-see TV. From near lawsuits to money shakeups, the show has a history even wilder than a night out at the Water Buffalo Lodge. Today, we're counting down 15 weird and wonderful facts about the original modern Stone Age family, the things you never saw in syndication and definitely didn't learn from Fruity Pebbles commercials. Before we jump in, be sure to like, subscribe, and share this video with your fellow retro TV fans who still say Yabba Dabba Doo without irony. And stick around for number 15, because the real reason the Flintstones even exists might be the most surprising thing in cartoon history. Now, let's get into the countdown with Number 1. Jackie Gleason almost sued Yabba Dabba Doo style. The Flintstones almost faced a huge legal problem before it became a cultural hit. The threat came from one very angry bus driver from Brooklyn. In the early 1960s, Jackie Gleason, the star and creator of The Honeymooners, noticed something very familiar about this new modern Stone Age family. Fred Flintstone was basically Ralph Cramden with a club. Barney Rubble was Ed Norton in Animal Skins. Wilma and Betty filled the same long-suffering wife roles as Alice and Trixie, somehow holding everything together. Even Fred's voice actor Alan Reed had done voiceover work for Gleason before and brought a very similar energy to the role. Gleason's lawyers told him he had a strong case. He could sue Hanna-Barbera, prove that the Flintstones was an animated copy of The Honeymooners, and might even get the show pulled off the air completely.
All I hope is when they do my life on Dragnet, they leave my name out to protect the innocent. You put that turkey back and they'll be doing your life on Medic.
But then, one important question stopped everything. Did Jackie Gleason really want to be remembered as the man who killed Fred Flintstone? That thought stopped him cold. Instead of becoming the person who shut down Primetime's first animated hit, he decided to let it go. Hanna-Barbera openly admitted the similarities. Hanna even said The Honeymooners was the funniest show on television and a major influence on the Flintstones. But they always treated that influence as a compliment, not a crime. In the end, Bedrock survived, not because of copyright law, but because Jackie Gleason didn't want that kind of legacy attached to his name. Number 2. The baby that made TV history. In 1963, America made a big event out of a cartoon baby being born. The birth of Pebbles Flintstone became one of the most talked about moments in 60s television.
What does baby say? Do you like your name?
Yabba Dabba Doo.
Turning a sitcom plot into something the entire world was talking about. The big moment came in the Season 3 episode, The Blessed Event, which aired in February of 1963. But the excitement started way before Wilma went into labor at Bedrock Hospital. Hanna-Barbera launched a global Name the Baby contest, asking viewers to guess the baby's name, weight, and gender for an animated show, something that had never been done before. When the results came in, the winning entry was Pebbles, submitted by an anonymous Florida butcher who won a round-the-world trip and $2,000 in spending money. Not bad for just filling out a postcard. And honestly, the name was perfect. Pebbles Flintstone sounded both adorable and just right for the modern Stone Age family. The hype worked. Millions of people tuned in to watch a cartoon character give birth, making the episode one of the most watched in early TV history. It showed something Hanna-Barbera probably didn't expect. Audiences didn't just watch for the rock jokes and dinosaur gags. They actually cared about the characters. That episode was everywhere. Fan mail, news coverage, water cooler gossip the next morning. It was a TV moment that rarely happens today. If you watch the episode in reruns now, you'll miss most of the original contest promotions, but you can still feel the suspense in the way they revealed her name and gender.
A girl? Wilma, she's beautiful. She looks just like you. A chip off the old block, huh, Fred? More like a pebble off the old Flintstone.
What a wonderful name. Pebbles Flintstone.
The arrival of Pebbles didn't just add a new character to the show. It showed that the Flintstones had become more than just a cartoon. People really cared about what happened in Bedrock. And that was probably the moment when the show stopped being just an animated sitcom and turned into a full-on cultural phenomenon. Number 3. The car crash that could have silenced Barney Rubble. In January of 1961, the Flintstones almost lost its lovable sidekick and one of the greatest voices in animation history when Mel Blanc, the man who voiced Barney Rubble, Bugs Bunny, Porky Pig, and half the Looney Tunes gang, was in a terrible car accident on Sunset Boulevard. Blanc's sports car crashed head-on with another vehicle at a curve so dangerous that the city eventually rebuilt it. The crash shattered both his legs and pelvis, and he suffered a triple skull fracture that put him in a coma for weeks. Doctors weren't sure he would survive, and even if he did, no one knew if he would ever be able to speak again. But here's where the story gets amazing.
Where I had a brain specialist would come in to see me every day that I was unconscious. And he would say, how you feeling today, Mel? I wouldn't answer him. But he got an idea. And one day he came in and he said, hey, Bugs Bunny, how are you? And I answered him. Just fine, Doc, how are you?
That one line told everyone that Mel Blanc and all those voices were still in the fight. While Blanc was recovering, Hanna-Barbera brought in voice veteran Doss Butler to temporarily play Barney. Butler had actually voiced the character in the original Flintstones pilot, so he already knew the role.
Oh, hello, pal. Come on in. You mean ex-pal? Why, what did I do, Fred? You wrote a poem for Betty, that's what. Well, why should that make you mad, Fred?
For 5 episodes, Butler kept Bedrock running while Blanc went through months of hard rehab. And when Blanc was finally ready to come back, he didn't wait until he could walk into the studio. Instead, Hanna-Barbera brought the studio to him. The crew set up recording equipment in his hospital room, and Blanc delivered Barney's lines from his hospital bed, surrounded by the rest of the cast, who refused to record without him. After the accident, Blanc's voice for Barney became a little deeper. You can hear it if you listen carefully. But Bedrock never missed a beat, and neither did Mel Blanc. Not even a near-fatal car crash could stop him from doing what he loved. Number 4. The first primetime cartoon that paved the way for The Simpsons. Long before Homer yelled, "Go, go, 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 go," there was Fred shouting, "Yabba Dabba Doo," and doing it in prime time. When The Flintstones premiered on ABC on September 30th, 1960, it made television history as the first original animated series ever shown during prime time. Families would gather around their TVs for a show that both adults and kids enjoyed. The humor connected with grown-ups, work stress, marriage, bills, and trying to keep your boss happy at the stone quarry. At the same time, kids loved the slapstick, the Stone Age gadgets like the pterodactyl record player, and all the dinosaur chaos. But the show was mainly made for adults, and the original sponsor made that very clear: Winston Cigarettes. For the first 2 seasons, Fred and Barney actually promoted cigarettes during commercial breaks.
How's about taking a nap? Hey, I got a better idea. Let's take a Winston break. That's it!
That's it. It wasn't until season 3, right after Pebbles was born, that the network realized maybe having cartoon characters promote cigarettes to a growing audience of kids wasn't a good idea. Winston was out, and Welch's grape juice was in, much more family-friendly. The show pushed boundaries in other ways, too. Fred and Wilma were one of the first married couples on TV, animated or not, to share a bed. You know, because married couples sleeping in the same bed was considered scandalous back then. The Flintstones held the title as the longest-running primetime animated series for nearly 3 decades, until The Simpsons finally passed it in 1997, even giving Fred a cheeky shout-out in an episode.
Simpson, Homer Simpson, he's the greatest guy in history.
Without the Flintstones, there would be no Simpsons, no Family Guy, and probably no streaming shows full of animated, dysfunctional families. Fred paved the way so Homer could waddle, and TV has never been the same since. Number 5. The Great Gazoo, and the moment Bedrock jumped the shark. Every long-running show eventually reaches the point where things get strange. For the Flintstones, that moment came from outer space, wearing a green helmet and calling everyone dum-dum.
So, here I am, forced to serve 2 prehistoric dum-dums until I've proved that I'm reformed.
I think I know the answer, but who are the prehistoric dum-dums you are forced to serve?
The dum-dums that freed me, of course.
Enter the Great Gazoo, voiced by Harvey Korman of the Carol Burnett Show fame, who crash-landed in Bedrock in October 1965 during Season 6. According to the story, Gazoo was an alien from the planet Zytox, banished to Earth for inventing a doomsday device. Fred and Barney stumble across his spaceship, and suddenly they're stuck with a magical alien servant who only they and the kids can see. Naturally, this makes Wilma think Fred has lost his prehistoric mind every other episode. Here's where things went off the rails. Gazoo could do anything: materialize objects, teleport people, time travel, you name it. And that's exactly the problem. The show that started as a clever Stone Age sitcom about work, stress, and marriage had suddenly turned into a sci-fi fantasy with a floating alien who solved problems with magic. It completely broke what made the Flintstones work in the first place, watching modern problems get solved with prehistoric solutions, not cosmic shortcuts. The move was a desperate attempt to boost falling ratings by jumping on the magical sitcom trend. Bewitched and I Dream of Jeannie were huge, so why not give Bedrock a supernatural sidekick? But instead of saving the show, Gazoo became the poster child for what fans now call jumping the shark, that moment when a series tries too hard to stay relevant and loses what made it special. Gazoo only lasted 11 episodes before the series ended in April 1966, but the damage was done. Viewers found him annoying, critics saw him as proof the show had run out of ideas, and looking back, he's basically the official mascot of "this show is about to be canceled." So while producers hoped the Great Gazoo would be Bedrock's magic bullet, he ended up being its death rattle. Number 6. The Flintstones were almost the Flagstones. Imagine tuning in to ABC in 1960 and hearing, "Welcome to the Flagstones."
Where do you want it, Fred?
Just set it down where I can reach it.
And remember, if you sink, don't let my best dishes go down with the ship.
Sounds like a geology textbook, right? Well, Hanna-Barbera almost made that mistake, and it took a panicked last-minute scramble to save their entire show. In the original 1959 pilot, Fred and Wilma weren't Flintstones at all. They were Flagstones. The name made it through early production, promo materials, and even voice recordings before someone finally checked if anyone else was already using it. Spoiler alert, they were. The Flagstone family had been happily living in the Sunday Funnies for years, specifically in the King Features comic strip High and Lois. And the last thing this brand new studio needed was to start their first primetime series by immediately getting dragged into court for trademark infringement. So with weeks to go, Hanna-Barbera went into full panic mode. They tossed around alternatives. The Gladstones was briefly considered and just as quickly rejected before finally landing on a name that actually worked: the Flintstones. It was stronger, punchier, and much better for a Stone Age pun. Honestly, it's hard to imagine Fred Flintstone being called Fred Flagstone. It just doesn't feel right, and it sounds wrong when you say it out loud. So, the next time that theme song gets stuck in your head, remember we were this close to singing Meet the Flagstones. Thank goodness someone caught it before millions of dollars in merchandise got printed with the wrong name. That would have been a Yabba Dabba disaster. Number 7. When Hollywood moved to Bedrock. By the mid-1960s, the Flintstones had become such a primetime hit that real Hollywood stars started lining up to voice their own cartoon doubles. Decades before The Simpsons or Family Guy made celebrity cameos in art, Fred and Barney were already rubbing elbows with the biggest names in showbiz, or at least their prehistoric versions. The most famous is Anne Margaret, reimagined as Anne Margro. The Swedish-American singer and actress voiced herself in the Season 4 premiere, Anne Margro Presents, which aired in September 1963.
Hi, everything's fine, Rockley. Just a little car trouble. No, I haven't found a place to stay yet.
You hear that, Fred? She's looking for a place to stay. Hey, maybe we got us a babysitter.
In the episode, she's already a glamorous Holly Rock celebrity idolized by Pebbles. When she comes to Bedrock for a concert, she ends up staying with the Flintstones, who hilariously don't realize she's the famous star and even babysit Pebbles. And Anne Margaret didn't just phone it in either. She performed 2 songs in her real sultry voice, the ballad The Littlest Lamb as a lullaby, and the rock and roll number I Ain't Gonna Be Your Fool No More.
I ain't gonna be your fool no more.
It was part cartoon, part variety special, and completely ridiculous in the best way. Then came Tony Curtis, who appeared as Stony Curtis. In the season 6 episode, The Return of Stony Curtis, the movie star comes to Bedrock to film Slave Boy, a parody of Curtis's role in Spartacus.
Ready.
Good evening, Mrs. Flintstone. I'm Stony Curtis, your slave boy.
Stony Curtis? Stony Curtis! Yeah!
Wilma and Betty win a contest to have Stony come to their house and be their slave for a day. And Fred, being Fred, goes into full jealous husband mode before deciding he wants to be an actor too. Curtis leaned into his real-life heartthrob image, giving the episode a silver screen feel you didn't usually get from a show about talking dinosaurs and rock puns. And the guest list didn't stop there. Elizabeth Montgomery and Dick York showed up in Bedrock as the Flintstones' neighbors, Samantha and Darren, a perfect Bewitched cross-promo. At a time when celebrity voice cameos weren't common, the Flintstones turned Bedrock into the place to be seen. Even if you were just a cartoon version of yourself with a rock-themed name, Hollywood had officially moved to the Stone Age, and everyone wanted a piece of it. Number 8. The theme song that took 2 seasons to show up. You can probably hum it right now. Flintstones, meet the Flintstones. They're the modern Stone Age family. It's one of the most recognizable TV themes ever written. But here's the twist. That earworm didn't even exist when the Flintstones first premiered. For the first 2 seasons, the show opened with a jazzy instrumental called Rise and Shine. No lyrics, no yabba dabba, just music that sounded like it belonged in a smoky lounge, not a cartoon about prehistoric suburbanites. It wasn't until season 3 that Meet the Flintstones finally appeared, and suddenly everything clicked. Flintstones, meet the Flintstones. The song was written by Hanna-Barbera's go-to composer, Hoyt Curtin, with lyrics by the show's creators, William Hanna and Joseph Barbera. They're a page right out of history. According to legend, Curtin knocked it out in a panic when production was running behind schedule, then arranged it for a full 22-piece jazz band and the Randy Van Horn Singers. The result was an instant classic. Let's ride with the family down the street. Here's a music nerd fun fact. The melody of Meet the Flintstones is built on jazz rhythm changes, the same chord structure used in countless swing standards like I Got Rhythm.
I got rhythm, I got music, I got my man who could ask for anything more.
So yes, Fred Flintstone's theme song has real musical pedigree. Take that, snobs. The version we all know, the one where the singer belts out "We'll have a gay old time," had big band energy that made it feel part cartoon and part nightclub act. We'll have a gay old time. The main cast even recorded their own version for a 1961 album, but Curtin's arrangement is the one that stuck. What started as a last-minute scramble became one of the most iconic theme songs in TV history. By the time Meet the Flintstones hit the air in season 3, Bedrock had finally found its voice, and we've been singing along ever since. All right, since we're halfway through, we're going to take a quick pause. If you're enjoying this trip through TV's most famous prehistoric suburb, hit that like button and subscribe. It tells YouTube that you're having a yabba dabba good time. All right, now let's get back to the countdown with number 9, the 1994 live-action movie that rocked the 90s. In 1994, Hollywood decided to bring Bedrock to life as a full-scale blockbuster, and somehow it actually worked. Universal's live-action Flintstones movie became one of the biggest box office surprises of the decade, even though critics absolutely trashed it. The movie won 2 Razzies for its screenplay, but audiences didn't care. It opened with the biggest May weekend in history, stayed at #1 for 2 straight weeks, and ended up as the 5th highest-grossing film of 1994, earning nearly $342 million worldwide on a $46 million budget. That put Bedrock right behind The Lion King, Forrest Gump, and True Lies. Not bad for a prehistoric sitcom brought to life. The casting was perfect, too. John Goodman looked like he'd been born to yell Yabba Dabba Doo. Rick Moranis nailed Barney's loyal goofball energy, and Elizabeth Perkins and Rosie O'Donnell completed the Flintstone Rubble. Throw in Halle Berry as Sharon Stone and Elizabeth Taylor in her final film role, and suddenly Bedrock felt like Beverly Hills with dinosaurs. The B-52s even reinvented themselves as the BC-52s to record a Billboard Top 100 version of the classic theme song.
Flintstones, meet the Flintstones, they're the modern Stone Age band.
Behind the scenes, the production was wild. The movie took almost 10 years to make and went through an estimated 35 screenwriters before settling on a final script, and filming wasn't easy. The entire cast performed barefoot, so the crew had to ban glass from the set. John Goodman later joked that the heat and bare feet were the hardest part of bringing Fred to life. The movie also brought back some Flintstones legends. Harvey Korman, the original voice of the Great Gazoo, appeared as the Dictabird, and Jean Vanderpool, the original voice of Wilma, made a cameo, her final on-screen connection to the character she had voiced for decades. So yes, critics trashed the script, but the production design, costumes, effects, and performances earned real praise, and more importantly, the box office spoke louder than any review. For one summer in 1994, Bedrock was the biggest suburb in America. Number 10. The Rubbles' Road to Parenthood. The Flintstones had a talent for tackling surprisingly real problems, and one of the most unexpected was the story of how Barney and Betty Rubble became parents. After Wilma's pregnancy and Pebble's birth became a ratings goldmine, the writers decided to continue the family storylines by focusing on the Rubbles. What came next was something television rarely addressed in the early 1960s: infertility and adoption.
That's no kitten. A baby.
In the season 4 episode Little Bam Bam, the Flintstones did something pretty bold. The Rubbles quietly longed for a family, giving viewers something they could relate to instead of just another rock pun. Betty and Barney literally wished on a falling star for a baby. Barney even broke the fourth wall to hint at it. But instead of leaving it as a sad story, the show offered a solution that was still uncommon on TV at the time: adoption. The next morning, Bam Bam was on their doorstep. He immediately starts destroying things and stealing their hearts. They go through the actual adoption process, paperwork, a court case, and uncertainty, before finally being approved to bring him home. It was a surprisingly heartfelt story for a show mostly known for dinosaur appliances and bowling league drama. And the message was pretty progressive for 1963. Families are built by love, not just biology. Number 11. The merchandising empire that outlived Bedrock. Most TV shows end when the final episode airs. The Flintstones just kept going, straight into your cereal bowl, your medicine cabinet, and almost every corner of American life you can think of. For more than 60 years, Fred, Wilma, and Barney have been promoting everything from breakfast to vitamins, turning a 6-season sitcom into one of the longest-running merchandising machines in television history. Let's start with the breakfast aisle. In 1971, Post Foods launched Fruity Pebbles and Cocoa Pebbles, turning Fred and Barney into permanent cereal spokesmen.
Watch me fool Fred out of his pebbles. Tell your future, Fred Flintstone. Okay, Swami. I see someone after your most prized possession.
For decades, they starred in commercials where Barney tried to steal Fred's cereal. But check this out. Fruity and Cocoa Pebbles are the longest-running cereal brands based on TV characters still sold today. And the really wild part, they're still popular with kids who have never watched a single episode of the Flintstones. The cereal outlived the cultural memory of the show itself. But Bedrock didn't stop at breakfast. In 1968, Miles Laboratories, later Bayer, launched Flintstones chewable vitamins, shaped like Fred, Wilma, and the gang. Parents trusted them, kids ate them like candy, and decades later, they're still one of the top-selling children's vitamin brands in America. And if that wasn't enough, the brand showed up everywhere. Toys, lunchboxes, board games, clothing, and even entire theme parks with Bedrock City attractions, complete with dinosaur rides and rock-shaped buildings you could actually walk through. By the 1970s, the Flintstones had become a full-blown lifestyle brand before that term even existed. The show ended in 1966, but the merchandise kept making money for decades and still does today. Number 12. The Voice of Wilma and the $15,000 Decision. Genevieve Vanderpool gave Wilma Flintstone her voice, her warmth, and her perfectly timed Fred yell that could stop a brontosaurus in its tracks. What she didn't have was a crystal ball. Her story is a perfect example of how nobody in the 1960s could have imagined cartoons would become billion-dollar franchises.
I'm going over to Betty's, so when the expressmen come, give them Alvin's trunk. He left it here for them to pick up after he leaves.
Sure.
The address and all the information is right on it. Bye.
Bye, dear.
During the Flintstones' original run, Vanderpool earned $250 per episode, which was standard pay for 1960s voice work. When the series ended in 1966, she faced a choice that seemed simple at the time: take a one-time buyout of $15,000 or gamble on residuals if the show ever got rerun in syndication. Here's the thing. At the time, betting on cartoon reruns sounded crazy. Animation was considered disposable entertainment. Shows aired, then disappeared. And $15,000 in 1966 was serious money, about $140,000 in today's money. So Vanderpool took the guaranteed cash. It wasn't a bad decision at the time. It was smart based on everything anyone knew about television. Except the Flintstones didn't disappear. It became a syndication monster that's still on the air more than 60 years later, generating billions from reruns, merchandise, and spin-offs. Oops! Vanderpool spent the rest of her life joking wryly about the decision she'd made. In one interview, she said, "If I got residuals, I wouldn't live in San Clemente. I'd own San Clemente." But she wasn't bitter. She knew she'd made the choice everyone would have made. Vanderpool's story became a wake-up call that changed the industry. Her experience helped push for better residuals and protections for voice actors in future contracts. So, while she didn't get to own San Clemente, her legacy helped make sure the next generation of voice actors got a fair shake. Number 13. When Betty Rubble got a new voice. Everyone knows about the time Barney Rubble's voice changed after Mel Blanc's car accident, but Betty's voice changed too. Most fans never even noticed, even though it happened right in the middle of the show's run. The original voice of Betty Rubble was Bea Benaderet.
They're giving Bam Bam to someone else.
A radio and TV veteran with one of the most recognizable voices in the business. Before Bedrock, she was a regular on the George Burns and Gracie Allen show and a staple of old-school radio comedy. From 1960 to 1964, Benaderet gave Betty her trademark charm, sweet but sassy, the perfect balance to Barney's lovable goofiness. But after 4 seasons, Hollywood came calling. Benaderet was offered the lead role in CBS's new sitcom Petticoat Junction, playing Kate Bradley. At first, she tried to do both, recording Betty's voice while filming her live-action series. Spoiler alert, that didn't last long. The schedule was brutal, and eventually she had to choose. She picked the starring role and said goodbye to Bedrock. Enter Jerry Johnson, who took over as Betty for the show's final 2 seasons. Here's the impressive part. Johnson's impression was so spot on that most viewers never realized the switch had happened. Same tone, same warmth, same delivery. Johnson would go on to voice Betty in various specials and spin-offs for years after the original series ended, making her version of the character just as iconic as Benaderet's. It's one of those seamless transitions that shows how well the Flintstones kept the machine running, even when the people behind the voices moved on. Whether it was Bea Benaderet or Jerry Johnson at the mic, Betty Rubble sounded exactly like she was supposed to. And honestly, that's pretty impressive for a show that was basically winging it half the time. Number 14. The Flintstones never really ended. You might think the Flintstones wrapped up when the original series ended in 1966, but that would be a cute thought. In reality, Bedrock never went quiet. It just kept changing into whatever format would keep the franchise alive for decades. The first big revival came in 1971 with the Pebbles and Bam Bam show,
which aged the babies up to high schoolers and gave them a rock band called the Bedrock Rockers. It was basically Archie meets the Stone Age. From there, Hanna-Barbera realized they'd found a gold mine. Fred and the gang could be any age, in any format, for any audience that needed cartoons that week. The 70s and 80s turned into a full-on Bedrock variety show marathon. There was the Flintstones Comedy Hour in 1972, mixing old episodes with new shorts.
Miss Kitty, you sure set a mighty fine table.
Yeah, but what do you reckon all this is gonna cost?
Fred Flintstone and Friends in 1977, which was basically a syndicated clip show. The new Fred and Barney show in 1979, which inexplicably added witches and werewolves to the Stone Age. And the Flintstone Comedy Show in 1980, which grew into a 90-minute block featuring bedrock cops, mystery-solving teens, and yet another Captain Caveman revival. Things got even weirder when Hanna-Barbera started mixing Bedrock with other properties. Fred and Barney Meet the Thing, real show. Fred and Barney Meet the Shmoo, also real. At some point, they stopped asking, should we, and just asked, what else can we stick Fred Flintstone next to? By 1986, the Flintstone Kids shrank the entire cast down to 10-year-olds and added bonus segments like Captain Caveman and Son. Then came the TV movies. In 1993, Pebbles and Bam Bam got married in Yabba Dabba Doo and became parents in 1994's Holly Rockabye Baby. And somewhere in between, the Jetsons Meet the Flintstones happened in 1987, a crossover so absurd it somehow made perfect sense. Jumping into the 90s, we got Cave Kids, which turned Pebbles and Bam Bam into educational toddlers. And then in 2020, Yabba Dinosaurs brought the franchise to streaming with new Prehistoric adventures. The formula stayed simple: change the ages, keep the names, print money. For more than 60 years, the Flintstones kept evolving, aging up, down, crossing over, and refusing to stay canceled. In Bedrock, extinction isn't an option. It's just a really long commercial break.
Number 15. How a Blue Dog Paved the Way for Bedrock. Before Fred Flintstone ever yelled, "Wilma,"
Yabba Dabba Doo!
his entire future depended on a polite blue dog with a southern drawl. In 1958, Hanna-Barbera launched the Huckleberry Hound Show.
Oh, Yogi.
You called, Uncle Walter?
How do we get to see a cartoon in this thing?
All Yogi can do, keep your eye on a canoe.
It was a low-budget cartoon aimed straight at kids. Nothing fancy, just a charming hound dog getting into trouble every week. But then, something surprising happened. By 1960, a nationwide survey showed that nearly half of Huck's audience were adults. That got Hanna-Barbera's attention fast. Up until then, television animation was strictly kids' stuff. Cartoons belonged on Saturday mornings, not in prime time. But if adults were already tuning in for a talking dog, what would happen if they made a show aimed at them? That's when William Hanna and Joseph Barbera had their light bulb moment. They'd already proven they could entertain all ages with Tom and Jerry, but their TV projects kept getting lumped in with Saturday morning cartoons. The adult viewership numbers from Huckleberry Hound gave them the evidence they needed to pitch something bigger, a prime-time animated sitcom. So they took the formula of shows like The Honeymooners, wrapped it in cartoon humor, and built a modern Stone Age family that could work for everyone. When the Flintstones premiered in 1960, it became the first animated sitcom in prime time, a show parents could watch without feeling like they were babysitting. And none of it would have happened without a humble blue dog who proved cartoons didn't have to be just for kids. Without Huckleberry Hound's unexpected success, there might never have been Bedrock, primetime animation, or the entire wave of adult cartoons that followed.
Wow now, Echo Cave. I'll try it. Hello!
And a hello to you!
Sometimes the biggest changes in television come from the most unlikely places. In this case, it was a southern hound dog who accidentally proved that cartoons could grow up too. And there you have it, 15 weird and wonderful facts about the Flintstones, the primetime cartoon that somehow evolved into a decades-long pop culture empire. If you had fun on this trip back to Bedrock, be sure to like, subscribe, and share this video with a friend who still calls people dum-dums. And check out our playlist of classic TV deep dives in the description. Until next time.